New York's governor has slammed the brakes on congestion pricing. That is New York City's plan to tame its notorious traffic. Tolls to enter Midtown Manhattan were set to take effect at the end of June and raise $1 billion a year to fund upgrades to New York's public transit system. All of that now on indefinite hold. So how much do commuters pay in congestion charges? Well, New York was proposing a $15 charge to most drivers entering Manhattan below 60th Street. In London, there's a £15 or around a $20 daily fee if you drive within the central zone. In addition, if your vehicle does not meet ultra-low emission zone standards, you pay an extra $16. Milan's Area C zone costs €7.50 or about $8 to enter, and Stockholm charges between $10 and $13 depending on the time of year to enter the city center. And finally, Singapore's road pricing system charges between 40 cents and $4.50 per road driven in certain zones. Well, to talk more about the pros and cons of congestion pricing, I'm joined by Michael Shank. He's Director of Engagement for the Carbon Neutral Cities Alliance and Adjunct Professor of Sustainable Development at New York University. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here.
Well, I want to talk about this plan that has been in the works for years in New York, and now the governor has suddenly scrapped it to the shock of many. Can you talk about what was behind this sudden reversal?
New York City is a member of my organization, the Carbon Neutral Cities Alliance, and they've been trying to lead on this for years. New York City loves to be first, and this was going to be a first, as your correspondent noted. Unfortunately, Governor Hochul, in conversation with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries in our U.S. Congress, decided that it wasn't politically appropriate. They were keen to cave to and kowtow to suburban voters who occasionally drive into the city, who aren't a fan of fees. And so that was the calculus. That was the political calculus. They're trying to keep seats in the House, and some of these suburban seats, these suburban House representatives, House districts, if you will, are up for grabs. And so the Republicans made a little field day out of this congestion pricing scheme. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the political calculus was by Democrat Governor Hochul, in conversation with Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, to scrap it. And unfortunately, for all the reasons your correspondent mentioned, public health sacrificed, quality of life sacrificed, and financing for upgrades sacrificed.
Well, this plan was designed to ease congestion in the city, to push people to use public transit. But now that plan is scrapped. The public transit system, they say, will no longer have the funds to make upgrades and other kinds of improvements. So what are the alternatives now? I mean, where do we go from here?
Yeah, so as your correspondent mentioned, other cities have rolled this out successfully and effectively. And sure, there's always some initial protest, but in Oslo, in Stockholm, in Singapore, in London, in Milan, after they're rolled out, people see quality of life improve. They see cleaner air, clearer streets, less illness, less noise, longer lives. So there's so many benefits that come from this. Now, what New York City could do if they don't want to come back to the congestion pricing scheme in ways that Governor Hochul shut down, they could look at ultra-low emission zones, so keeping out the heaviest emitters. They could look at car-free city centers. So Oslo has rolled out a car-free city center. Stockholm is about to roll out a car-free city center. And so New York City has some experience with this because we do shut down streets in New York City and turn out the restaurants and the festivals and the parties that happen in these car-free streets. Now, what we could do is expand that to a car-free city center in Manhattan so people could enjoy the quality of life that we're seeing in Oslo and Stockholm and elsewhere. So there are other ways to get at this, and I think if they're going to try it for a third time, because this is actually their second attempt, ultimately it's going to need a different name, a different approach, and we can't have flip-flopping at the last minute that we're seeing here for political calculus.